Welcome back to Tales from the PowerAge, and tonight we've got a special part 2 of AC/DC Black Ice. Not just AC/DC Black Ice, but AC/DC at Download, AC/DC at Paris, and then meeting AC/DC at Hammersmith Odeon at the River Plate premiere. So really looking forward to that. So for those of you that watch us normally will notice we've got someone else on, and if you saw our Iron Maiden on tour, we've got a good friend of ours, Flotty, who's a super AC/DC fan. So hi, Flotty, how are you doing?
Hey, guys.
Hello, Flotty. How you doing, mate?
Glad to be here.
So he's going to be sharing some of the stories from our tours and trials with AC/DC, but particularly these three occasions that we've got on today. Welcome to the rest of the guys. Hi, how are you doing?
Hello, everybody. You all right?
Excellent. Right. So really looking forward to talking this through. The other thing you can do for us, of course, is like, subscribe, and please ring the Hell's Bell as normal. It's fantastic. We love it when you do that. It helps the algorithms, and we love it when we see the subscribers go up. So really appreciate that. So let's go into this podcast and talk through the Black Ice tour. And we'll kick off with Download. We'll touch on Download briefly. This was an interesting one. Here's the ticket, the full ticket, which me and Flotty weren't on the day, to be fair. So we had a great day. Flotty, do you remember? I think we booked the hotel. I don't know if it was on the morning of the gig because we just went for the day, didn't we?
We did, yeah. We went it was the Saturday, and we met your friend Tom. But we booked a hotel. It's the first time we'd not done the camping, obviously, because for me at least, it was the first time I'd done Donington for probably 15 or 20 years, or maybe more. And we'd all grown up a bit, and the thought of a shower and a bed was quite appealing. But yeah, we had a great day.
Yeah, it was fantastic. I actually think it was a Friday, Flotty, I say from memory. I'm reading the ticket. That's why I'm cheating. But look, it was brilliant. A couple of things I remember going into the gig, how busy it was. It was absolutely mobbed. I'd been a couple of times before that. I'd seen Kiss doing the Alive 35 a couple of years earlier. It was just thousands and thousands of people walking in. It was just, it felt like a real pilgrimage. It was amazing. And interestingly, I mean, they said it was the busiest one since 88. On the back of the ticket, it says 127,259. I don't think you can see that, but it was super busy.
Sorry again, mate.
Yeah, sorry, guys. There you go. Can you see that?
Yeah, you can see it now. Yeah, it's good.
So it gives you an indication. It just felt really amazingly busy. A couple of other facts about the day. AC/DC weren't on any of the official merchandise at all. So they had the Friday bands, but AC/DC weren't on there. And famously, AC/DC bought their own stage with them. So they bought the whole rig, the whole show, the whole shebang. No one else was allowed on that stage throughout the day. And, there it is in the pictures. In my opinion, I think, and I don't know, you'd have to ask someone close to the band or the promoters. We know at the time AC/DC were very anti downloading music, streaming music, etc., etc. It wasn't until the mid 2000 and probably 14, 15 that you could actually download. They were one of the last bands that had enabled their music to get onto Apple and Spotify. They were just really anti it, and certainly Malcolm was anti it. So I think that might have been partly the reason behind it. But they bought their own show, and it was amazing. I mean, Flotty, do you remember how big the crowd was?
I remember we were very far back, which was really fine with me because the previous, I'd seen DC at Donington before. I think it was 1991, was it? DC.
Yeah.
But my overarching memory of Donington, which I know you've covered in an earlier podcast, was the scary 1988 when the crush and the people died in the crowd. And I was caught in that crush when Dave Lee Roth came on, and it was terrifying. So I was really happy to be at the back. I had a great day, and I also remember that they had proper toilets, which they didn't have in 1988 or 91.
Yeah, good point.
So I enjoyed it when I was in the early years, but I enjoyed the luxury of the hotel and the proper toilets and the view from the back as well. And DC have never disappointed, to be honest. I've seen other bands that have had good days and bad days, but I don't think I've ever seen DC have a bad day.
Yeah, that's true.
Another good friend of ours managed to get. He's good friends with a couple of the DC crew and managed to get backstage and have a saunter around the all the stuff that was going on, and also got a couple of pictures of Malcolm and Angus's guitars. So, Paulo, thanks for that. Gav, I think if you can just show that, so you can see Angus's guitars on the right. Looks absolutely amazing, doesn't it? And then Malk's there on the left, the 4 guitars with the towels, etc. So, an amazing setup. Looks absolutely fantastic, and those photos have not been shared before. So,
nobody's seen those before.
They're brilliant, don't they? They're absolutely fantastic. Any thoughts on that, Gav? I know you like the whole setup of the.
Yeah, I love this backstage stuff, and it's the inner sanctum, and back to the previous slide with the seeing the train kind of hidden from view. Nobody else would see that other than the crew. It's really, really cool. So yeah, that's good stuff. And not many guitars really, considering their stature. These big headlining bands normally have hundreds of the things, but DC aren't built like that, are they? They stick to the same old, Marshall amps or whatever, and the gear they've always had, and old school, proper old school.
Jam, is that surprising to see that, given that you've been to, I think, 3 or 4 times on the tour up until that point? Is it surprising to see that?
Gav, when you said that, there's not many. I don't know why. I'm almost expecting Malcolm just literally to have one guitar. Literally, and just be
very surprised that he had the big Gretsch at the back there.
I was going to say that big one surprised, with the semi, that. But again, Angus, there's I'm trying to count. So 5 or 6. I'm actually surprised there's as many as there are. But so cool, so what a band! Yeah, it's brilliant.
It's brilliant. Yeah, Fly.
Yeah, on that subject. I watched a video the other day, which is on YouTube. I'll send you guys a link, and it's Angus's guitar tech running through the whole thing. It's a long video, but if you're an audiophile or if you like guitars or DC, it's
I've seen that, mate. It's good.
Brilliant. And he tells you everything, and it's a really simple setup. There's a wall of Marshalls, of course, but there's no flashy stuff. There's 2 of everything. It's super professional, but super simple. And he said that Angus will only change guitars if he breaks a string or goes out of tune. Yeah, it's really interesting if you're a DC fan. So yeah, I'll send you a link.
Yeah, brilliant. So check that out if you haven't already. So in our infinite wisdom, and I'm hoping, by the way, that AC/DC announced a tour in December this year. It was December that they announced these summer shows for the following year, and I think I was quite happy on an evening, just scanning the internet on my fan club page, and managed to purchase a couple of tickets for the Stade de France in Paris, and subsequently flown Flotty and said, it was in Brazil at the time, do you fancy going to Paris in June next year, the week after Donington? Of course, it was pushing on an open door. Do you remember that call, Flotty?
Pushing on.
I do, yes, I do. I remember it very well, and I remember the answer was a resounding yes.
An emphatic yes.
A resounding we.
Yeah.
Because we Dylan and I had both joined the fan club before the Black Ice tour, because we knew it'd be tough to get a ticket. And we got the Rotterdam tickets, which I know you've covered Rotterdam already. I've still got a Rotterdam ticket there. And yeah, when Dill got the Paris tickets, that was great news, because we already had tickets for London, Birmingham. So yeah, it was another one to add, and a nice weekend or night away, which we'll come to later, which was a really brilliant gig in Paris.
Brilliant. So this was the final leg of I think it'd been going for almost 3 years by this point, but this was the final leg of the tour. And I think we mentioned it on the last pod, the amount of shows, how much it grossed. I think it grossed nearly £500 million or $500 million, which is amazing. But as a surprise to us, which we didn't know at the time when I got the tickets, Gav, you managed to hook yourself up with a couple of tickets in Paris as well out of nowhere.
Yeah, I did some creative business meetings, and by chance found myself in Paris coincidentally on the same day. And so did a friend of mine.
Coincidence.
Called DC Dunk. So yeah, and even by even more coincidence, we met you guys there. So yeah, we because we managed to figure it out later than you guys. We weren't so organised. We found some restricted view tickets for €35, I think they were, and there was supposed to be a massive column in front of us, but so we were kind of literally parallel with the stage with a column, so it would have been rubbish. But the whole row that we were at the wrong end of hadn't sold out, so we just went 10 foot to our left and got a brilliant view of the stage for half the price. Great value all round that week. I think it was during the week, wasn't it? It was a Thursday or something.
No, I think it was a Saturday actually. It was definitely, or it was a Friday. No, it was a Friday.
Friday.
It was a Friday.
It would have been a work day for obvious reasons.
Flotty and I arrived first thing in the morning. We checked into our hotel. It was an Ibis. It was very nice, I might say. So for anyone that runs Ibis, if you want to give us a freebie or a free night in a hotel, you know where we are. Give us an email. So we set off. I think we had a small drink in the hotel as we left very early in the morning and went to discover a bit of Paris, didn't we? We did a bit of sightseeing for 10 minutes and then ended up down with these guys, which was near the Moulin Rouge, I think. And Flotty, I think you'd been on the fan club and hooked up with a bunch of sort of pre-fan club meet in this bar, which I think was by the Moulin Rouge, near Pegel from memory. So do you want to tell us how?
Yeah, I think you're right about the location. It was close to the stadium, but this was a bar that they booked an AC/DC tribute band to play in the afternoon and invited as many DC fans who were going to the gig to come along for a pre-gig party, really. So we met Gav and Dunk there, as you can see, and they were really good. They were a French AC/DC tribute band called Riff Raff. So I don't know if they're still going.
They were really good.
Yeah. And my introduction to AC/DC was Back in Black, 1981, 81. Like all you guys, we all went to school together. But I'm a huge Bon Scott fan. Bon Scott is AC/DC for me. Although I love Brian Johnson, but Bon Scott's my man. And this band, I don't remember their set list completely, but they did a lot of Bon Scott era songs. And I particularly remember them playing Night Prowler, which was a real treat. Not a song that you want to hear live. So, yeah, it was great. A really good afternoon.
Yeah, really. They played Ball Breaker as well, which is a real, one you wouldn't expect to hear, to be fair. It was really good. Gav, do you remember the band? Can you remember the afternoon's festivities?
Yeah, I remember the photo on the left with all the regular Parisians going past and stopping because it was so good, and they obviously got a vibe of DC in the town, so it was getting pretty congested down there, but we managed to get a table and hog it for a couple of hours. So Night Prowler is the thing that I remember as well, and us all doing the backing vocals at an annoyingly loud volume.
Yeah, brilliant that you've mentioned the word Parisians there, Gav, as well, because in the amazing, brilliant Let There Be Rock video, Bon Scott uses that very word because obviously that's filmed in Paris.
It's filmed, wasn't it?
So, it was like coming full circle, really. Great.
I don't know if you remember, Flotty, but we had AC/DC t-shirts on, and from the minute we got there, everyone, AC/DC, even at the hotel when we checked in, we were made to feel so welcome. Everybody seemed so chuffed.
Everyone knew DC were in town because we checked in the hotel and then we walked down to we didn't go into the Louvre, but we walked around that pyramid and in that whole area and even down there, right, away from where the stadium is, early in the day, there were DC fans everywhere, and it was a brilliant day. One of the greatest gigs I've ever been to, definitely.
So there we are. We're going into the stadium. We can just see Gav there doing a shut that door, Larry Grayson pose before he goes.
I don't know what I was doing there, but
and sorry, look at the picture of the screen on the right. I mean, just look at the crowd. It looks amazing. It just gives an idea of the atmosphere in the evening. You see the fists going in the air. That's brilliant. I think that's one of Flotty's pictures, which looks absolutely great. So, Gav, can you remember the sort of lead up to the gig? Because I think Slash was supporting, wasn't he?
Yeah, you're absolutely right. And this was the era when Slash had his first solo album. I really love that album, and to have him kind of mixing Guns N' Roses with the songs off that album was brilliant for me. And I've never heard a guitar sound so amazing where I was. You know, I told you before, I was really close to the stage, up to the left from Slash's eyes. It sounded brilliant. It was so loud, and it was so much louder than the band, but it still sounded okay because of that. I loved it. I thought Slash was fantastic, actually. Best I've ever seen him.
It felt like a Guns N' Roses show. I mean, again, if you look at the songs, Night Train, Rocket Queen, Civil War, Sweet Child of Mine, Paradise City. I mean, that's exactly what you want to hear, isn't it? As a warm-up as well.
Yeah, exactly.
Brilliant. Absolutely fantastic. Flotty, what do you remember from the...
Yeah, I'd echo all of that. I knew Slash was supporting, but I hadn't really given it much thought until he came on stage. I knew I'd heard his album because my son listens to it, or was listening to it at the time. But when he came on, and what struck me was the guitar was like the lead vocal. He had Miles Kennedy with him, who was fantastic and does a great job. But the front man of that band was Slash. Yeah. The sound of that guitar in a stadium, it was just incredible. And that, that was enough. And then, obviously, having seen Guns N' Roses in '88 at Donington, and not anything since, that's the only time I'd ever seen them, and never thought I would again, to suddenly hear Night Train, 3 songs in, and then a few of the others off of Appetite, finishing with Paradise City, it was incredible. It was absolutely brilliant. I'd have paid the money to go and just see that, if I don't know.
Yeah, it was really good.
Yeah, I would.
Cappy, we saw Guns N' Roses a couple of years ago at Download, and
yeah, we did.
They were great. And those songs are just brilliant, aren't they, in a big crowd?
Yeah, fantastic. Guns N' Roses are amazing. They played for 3 hours that time at Donington, and it just flew by. A lot of people I know didn't like a few of the covers they played, but I think both of us really enjoyed everything they did. The sun was setting when they were on, and it just amazing. And Slash is just fantastic.
Yeah, amazing. And Jam, I remember you were talking about how impressive, and I know we watched Glasgow on TV this year, but you were talking about how impressive Slash was at Glasgow this year.
I think a lot of people, until you've actually seen Slash, you don't get it until you actually see him live and you hear the tone of that guitar ripping the hell through whatever crowd you're in. I've seen them. We saw him at
Brixton Academy.
Absolutely out of this world, and that was, I think, it was a year or two after this, and it was a predominantly Guns N' Roses set, as it happens, plus a load of his best chicks. He started getting some really decent solo tunes, solo songs after that first record. When you see him live, anyone that's seen him live will say, "Oh, well, Slash, he's out of this world." And I loved the fact that if Glastonbury is good for one thing, it was good for actually showcasing Slash to the world, and the feedback was out of this world on it. The people that saw went, "Oh, that Slash can play guitar. Yeah, he's out of this world. It's brilliant."
Brilliant. So after Slash came AC/DC.
Here we go.
And there's the horns right there. So, well, look, this is what we've been waiting for. For me and Flotty, this was our 6th night of the tour that we'd seen the band. And yeah, we were excited. They're great tickets, didn't we? Right in the middle. We'd been down the front. We were at the front in Rotterdam. We were down the front of Birmingham, with the side in London, sort of in the middle for Wembley. Download, we were stood further back, just enjoying ourselves. And this one, we had really great seats. So just the excitement before they came on. What was the crowd like in Paris, Flotty? Can you remember?
Huge, bouncing. To see it, we were, as you see from the pictures earlier on, we were up to the right-hand side, up in the high seats of the stadium, which I wouldn't have chosen normally, but like you said, having done 5 gigs with some down the front already, it was really good to see it from up there.
Gav, any memories from the show in particular? I know you've touched on the fact that you managed to change your seats and it was, you enjoyed it. Any thoughts?
Yeah, we had the perfect view. To be honest, we did have a restricted view to a certain extent of the kind of depth of the stage. Certainly didn't see much of the drummer or the bass player, let's be honest. But because they had the big thing going out the front for Angus and Brian, it's all about the atmosphere, isn't it? And so we had a perfect view of the crowd, as well as the jetty that goes out into the crowd. It was just brilliant, and and it was great to be there with you guys.
Fantastic. So if you notice on the visual, Malcolm would only play 4 more shows with the band, and we'll talk about that in a few minutes. But at the front end of the podcast, we talked about the Ibis Hotel. Now,
this is the story. Here we go.
When you don't know, I think when it got dark, you've had a good day, and you're trying to work out, right, where were we staying? And Flighty and I managed to get a taxi back to Charles de Gaulle Airport and we asked the man who we got in the cab, can you take us back to the Ibis at the Charles de Gaulle? To which Flighty proceeded to lead us into the hotel, through the foyer, up to the 4th floor where we were staying.
Oh, key didn't work, Bill, did it?
Yeah, so Flighty was trying to get the key in the door and banging on the door, maybe trying to force it open with his foot, thinking, I can't understand how we can't get in. Anyway, I tried my key, it didn't work. I think, oh my gosh, I don't believe it. He's so tired. It'd been such a long day. So we went back into the foyer, and then the stark realization hit us that we weren't in the right hotel. So the guy, whoever was in 402, we really apologise for waking you up at 4 o'clock in the morning after being at an AC/DC show. We didn't mean it. It wasn't on purpose. And then subsequently, we managed to find our way back to the correct Ibis Hotel on another taxi ride down the road. Then it got worse. So I think this was our penance for waking up the guy or whoever in room 402 in the other Ibis. Our flight was delayed by about 6 or 7 hours the next day. It was just so painful, wasn't it, getting home? Not in it. I don't even want to think about it. But anyway, we've mentioned Ibis. So as I've already said, Ibis, if you want to send us some free nights to the fact that we didn't really stay there that night, that would be lovely.
You handled a couple of idiots really well. So.
Yes. Back to our 4 shows. That's a nice segue to the Hammersmith Live at the River Plate premiere, which is this. So for all AC/DC fans or all rock fans out there, I'm sure you've all seen clips and snippets of this video, because it is absolutely insane. The crowd are mad. So any friends from Argentina that are watching, well, it's just brilliant. That show is absolutely fantastic. So what happened, yet again, luckily, I've managed to procure a couple of tickets, and there's a copy of the ticket. And you'll notice it didn't cost anything, because I won it in a competition at HMV, and subsequently phoned Flighty up and said, Flighty, do you fancy coming to the Live at the River Plate premiere? And I think it was only a week later. So it was on the 6th of May, 2011. So almost a year after we'd seen them at Paris. And do you remember the phone call, Flighty, when we...
I don't remember the phone call, Dale, but I remember it was another resounding yes. So
like marriage proposal, this all the time.
Whatever I was doing that day was going to get cancelled. So yeah.
So this was also on a Friday. So it was on Friday the 6th of May. Here's the passes. They gave you one of these as you went in, which is pretty cool. And we managed to bag a few of these after, which was quite good. There's a picture there on the right of the band. So the one thing, obviously, you'll know.
Gav's got one.
Yeah, thanks, Bill.
Yeah,
He's got
I wonder
several.
where he got that from. Anyway, we're all mates. So the picture on the right is the press photo, which there was a big sort of thing on BBC Breakfast the next morning, which was awesome watching that when we'd been there the day before. It was so cool. Yeah. But me and Flighty got there early, and then quite quickly, a massive crowd had built up, hadn't it, Flighty? I mean, there must have been thousands of people there before the band turned up.
Yeah, it was really quite an unusual experience, because it wasn't a gig. Basically, they made Hammersmith Odeon into a cinema for the night. And out the front, obviously we're too young for Beatlemania, but it was just rammed with people. There were stewards trying to keep people out of the road. There were so many people there just waiting, because the band obviously were going to turn up to be present at this premiere of the film. And I met Dill in a pub around the corner. I don't know if you remember Dill. We had a couple of drinks, and then we went round and we joined this queue. And probably a little bit naughtily, we jumped over a couple of the barriers, because we didn't want to get run over, did we? So we
it's a very busy road.
We ended ended up very close to the front door of Hammersmith Odeon, which was closed at the time, obviously, and we're just waiting probably for about an hour, I think, with all these other people for the band to arrive before the public were allowed in.
What happened was they arrived in, I think, in 2 limos, and for those of you who've ever seen the band live, Angus's bodyguard, he must be about 8 foot, and Angus is, you know, tiny in comparison, and he looks absolutely tiny in comparison. It was funny because he looks like he'd just been down the supermarket, didn't he? Just climbed out the car with his jeans and t-shirt on. It was awesome. So what the band did was 2 of them went down one side. And Malcolm sort of stayed with. He had a sort of chaperone with him. We didn't know there were any issues with Malcolm at this stage, but he was quiet. The other guys were sort of going down. They were signing stuff, but the band weren't collectively signing stuff per se. I don't think, and I'm pretty sure, because we were watching what was going on. So there were 2 of the band on one side, 2 of the band on the other side, and there were thousands of people there. And we didn't know. We had no idea they were going to come up to where we were. Firstly, Cliff came up and he had a chat with us. He was brilliant, really good. We, you know, at this point, you're just going, I can't believe it. This has been waiting my whole life for this. And then Malcolm turned up, and we got them to sign a couple of things, which was brilliant, which we'll talk about in a sec. Then Angus came up, and Angus has been. I've met lots of people over the years. He's the only person that I was uncontrollably laughing with happiness when he was signing. It just makes me laugh thinking about it. Now it was hilarious. And then Brian came over, and he was brilliant with everyone. It was fantastic. Suffice to say, luckily, and I think I've shown this before in one of the other pods, but it probably is one of the proudest things I've got. I got Forum to sign the Black Ice CD, and I'm so pleased I took it with me. Flotty bought a gold pen with him, which he might have with him there.
I do indeed. So this pen, this very pen, which still works, I've kept it safe since that day, was held and used by both Angus, Malcolm, and Cliff. I didn't get Brian's signature, which there was no reason for that. It just didn't come past where I was. But it was kind of fitting because what I'd taken with me was this Let There Be Rock video, VCR, the official VCR. And that, I don't know if you can see that properly, but that's signed by Malcolm, Angus, and Cliff. Obviously, Brian wasn't on this because at this time, Bon was still in the band and Phil wasn't there on the day. So the 3 members of the band that were there that day that were on the video actually signed it. So that worked out pretty well. But I think the pen is probably more valuable there.
Yeah, it's awesome. And it was brilliant. And it was just made the night before it even started. So it was fantastic. So I think, Gav, you've got a picture of the signed stuff, which you've just shown, which is cool. And then you've got hopefully a little clip that you might be able to show in a sec. So yeah, that's the signed stuff.
Yeah, look at that. It's amazing.
Very, very cool. Really
treasured. And it's treasured because we were there and we got it. And AC/DC aren't the easiest band to get in front of. And they don't do meet and greets and all that sort of stuff. So unless you've been in one of the videos or you've caught them outside a hotel, then you're not always going to get stuff signed because they keep themselves to themselves famously. And that's one of the things I really like about them. So I think you've got, hopefully, Gav, you've got a bit of a clip.
Yep, this is how these treasured items were actually signed.
Bill, get mine as well, mate. Cheers, Malcolm. Thank you.
So Brian's got his own pen with him now. He's got a little black pen, which he then signs stuff. What was interesting about that, you could see Malcolm had a chaperone or security with him, and he went in quite quickly. So he'd signed a couple of things. Flotty's VHS case was the last thing he'd signed. What we didn't know at the time, this was Malcolm's last ever public appearance. So we didn't know that was going to be the last time he ever made a public appearance. They then went into the venue. Of course, none of the fans had got in at that point, and we didn't see them again until they came on stage before the video was shown. So we only realised a couple of years ago, I think, Flotty, this was his last ever public appearance in hindsight. So this is a really important.
It looks to me on that clip that he only signed your two things.
I think that he didn't sign much more, honestly.
Well, on that clip, he didn't. He just signed that. He just signed that CD and that cover, which is amazing.
Mm.
Yeah, so he had signed some other stuff because, as I said earlier, the crowd went right out to the road. But we were last in the queue, and
just before they went in.
Oh, cool,
yeah,
right.
literally, as Malcolm walked into that door, as you've just seen on the video, which I think was filmed on my phone, but I don't remember now. That's the last time I've ever seen him anywhere in public. And yeah, it's quite sad, but quite a special moment, I suppose, for us. And like Dill said, we didn't realise until probably 10 years afterwards. And I found the video on an old laptop, sent it to Dill. But one thing I always remember, just before he walked in, I don't know if you're going to play the video again, but he signed something for somebody else. There was a guy with us, who wasn't with us, but next to us. And he was collecting signatures, and he knew the band, obviously. We all did. And he was asking them to sign something for a friend of his who was ill. I think he said he was in a hospice, obviously very ill. And I always remember Malcolm saying to him, "What's his name? What's his name?" He wanted to dedicate whatever he was signing to this guy. You know, it's just something that really stuck with me. And I was just so happy to be there. You know, to meet Angus was great, but I'm a huge Malcolm fan. You know, I think the Malcolm sound, the heart and soul of the band, it's his band. You know, he was. Everyone thinks AC/DC is Angus, but it was Malcolm that made that.
Perfectly put, Flotty. Perfectly put, mate.
Yeah, it was amazing. And you know, now in hindsight, we realise how lucky we were. So, you know, waiting your whole life to meet the band, and Flotty and I have seen them probably between us pushing nearly 40 times. They're just they're amazing, and that was a real treat and thrill at the end of the tour, or the end of that sort of promo piece of the tour, to finally meet them, which was brilliant.
There it is.
When they went in to do the they had a video of Ozzy, which was quite funny. If you were there, you can find this on the internet as well, so I'd encourage you to go and have a look. It's hilarious. So Ozzy's talking about AC/DC, how much he loves them, and then he got the crowd up into a frenzy going AC/DC, and they came out, and Brian said a few words. The band, I think, stayed they were sort of chaperoned in with security. They watched 20 minutes of it, and then were ushered out of Hammersmith. We watched most of the show. We got some posters, which was fantastic, and everyone was happy. Went home with big smiles on our faces, with our signed merch and some great memories, and it was a great finish for the Black Eyes tour. So, obviously, subsequently afterwards, Malcolm quit the band and then passed away. So, look, rock in peace, Malcolm, and thanks for the memories and thanks for everything that you've given us in terms of AC/DC, because it's been absolutely amazing. Brilliant. Well, look, hope you enjoyed that. If you did enjoy it, please subscribe and hit the house bell. So that's that big bell with the horns on and a nice little guitar in the middle of it, the nice flying V. So I'd really appreciate that. You can find us on Facebook at Tales from the PowerAge, or on X, formerly Twitter, on Tales from the PowerAge at TTFTPR. You can find us online at www.talesfromthepowerage.com. Or if you want some merch, you can get that from redbubble.com, merchandise, TFT PowerAge. I don't think anyone's got any merch on tonight, have they? No,
not tonight.
I've got a nice Malcolm t-shirt on. This was a t-shirt that he wore on his first ever tour in the UK. And what's really poignant about Malcolm's first and last appearance in the UK, his first appearance was the Red Cow and Hammersmith. His last appearance was at Hammersmith Odeon. How cool is that? So, like I said, rest in peace, Malcolm. Thanks. Hope you enjoyed it. See you soon. Cheers, guys.
Thanks,
Cheers.
Everyone.
Cheers, buddy.